Hello and welcome to a Community Insight by TVC22. I'm your host, Thomas Docting. November marks Women Abuse Prevention Month, raising awareness and creating a time for empowerment as well as focus on the issues surrounding violence against women and gender-based violence. In Canada, gender-based violence is defined as violence that is inflicted upon a person or persons due to their gender identity, gender expression, or perceived gender. It's essentially any form of abuse, assault, or harassment that can be linked back to the dominant societal gender norms. Women Abuse Prevention Month is a time to hear stories and find resources, as education and awareness is the best way of reducing abuse against women within our society. To discuss the local situation and some of the preventative measures, we spoke to Linda Bissonette, a supervisor at Maison Interlude House. MIH was established in 1983 and has supported women victims of domestic violence and their children ever since, who are really at the core of their development efforts as they provide shelter for 80 women and children and support a further 400 women and a further 100 children, with 250 of them supported through the Transitional and Housing Support Program. MIH has become a multi-service organisation and in 2003 started casting their net wider than just the Prescott-Russell region, with their outreach services now available in Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry. I would like to thank Linda for her time and her insight, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. Linda Bissonette, thank you very much for taking the time and speaking with us today. We've got a ton that we really want to dive into, as mentioned in the introduction there, with Maison Interlude House, and we're really the topic we're really launching ourselves into is obviously November being Women Abuse Prevention Month, pardon me. Before we dive into the sort of nitty-gritty elements of all of it, being with Maison Interlude House yourself, I just wanted to ask, as a sort of setting the stage for the listener, what kind of programs do you offer to women and children who have been the victims of domestic abuse as well as abuse against women, and those that maybe are looking to prevent such a situation from happening to themselves as well?
Yes, so we have the shelter component, of course, that provides for women victims of all types of violence, not just domestic violence, and their dependents, which could be children. And then we have the outreach program, where we have the women come to our offices, because we have different satellite offices. We have approximately 6 different satellite offices where we have workers, and the women can come to the offices and receive help with finding a place to live, if they want to go back to school, to do their budget, counseling. We also have the safety plan. So we can do all that with the woman. That's why we call it outreach services. So they don't actually have to be living in the shelter to receive these services.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was looking at some of the statistics available on your website as well, and you obviously have some women in the area living in the shelters, but there is a vast greater number of people that you do help in the region. Can you talk to us about some of the specific programs you have ongoing as well? I know there are a couple of sort of laid out there, and what is MIH's like true goal here?
Oh, well, it's first of all, it's to empower women, it's to give them that power back and to live a life without violence. So we do that through prevention, raising awareness, and giving the woman exactly what she needs by doing a needs assessment to see where she's at in her development, and to give her all the tools she needs to get through that violence.
And as we mentioned at the start, we're obviously talking because November is Women Abuse Prevention Month for you and the work that you guys do. That isn't just for November, it's 365 days a year, it's 24/7. You guys are always there to help out the people. As we mentioned, like within Prescott-Russell, but thanks to the outreach services, obviously further afield as well. Do you have anything specific planned and ongoing for November as well? Is that sort of, I can't remember the word in English, but sensibilisation essentially for the region?
Right. So November 25th is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. So this day kicks off the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which lasts right up until December 10th, which is Human Rights Day. So in those 16 days, we do campaigns to raise awareness. And on December 6th, what we have three different vigils in Prescott Russell. So we have Hawkesbury, we have Rockland, and we have Castleman, where we hold vigils. And we also, why is December 6th also is remembering those women who were victim of that tragic shooting at Polytechnique in Montreal. So that's why it's December 6th is the vigils are held in three different towns.
That's great. I mean, I hope as many people here listening can remember that date and mark it down in their calendars. I will most certainly make time to come down myself on the 6th. We can't talk about anything today without talking about really the true events and the big events that have affected all our lives in the last 18 to 24 months and how they have impacted every other element. It has the violence against women and gender-based violence has been labelled as a shadow pandemic, with others even calling it a pandemic that was just going under the radar pre-COVID as well. What have you noticed about the impact of COVID-19 on both the survivors of gender-based and violence against women here in our region, but also the impact it's had on your services and your ability to be able to help people in our region?
So when COVID first hit and everyone was put into their homes and you know, when we had those stay-at-home orders and whatnot, what happened is we were making the victims stay in their homes with the abusers, which caused an awful effect on these women and the children, right, who were witness to that. Children weren't even going to school. They didn't even have that period of respite at school because everybody was confined to their homes. So the violence became more serious. It became more complex. So we have more complex cases now because of that. And what's happening with the housing crisis is that even if women want to leave, and all of our shelters are in the area are full, unfortunately, what's happening is that these women don't even have a place to go. So even if they want to get out, where do they go? There's a housing crisis. All our shelters are already full. And that's what we're looking at now. That's what we're having to deal with now. So we're having to meet women like through the outreach services and give them tools to try and cope with what they're living with at home.
And I know on your website it mentioned in terms of some statistics to sort of back that up there that previously you receive approximately 1,400 crisis calls, phone calls a year. Has that number gone up in the last 12 months?
No, it has not, unfortunately, because what's happening is it's also difficult for the women to reach out and to call or to text or do whatever because they're in the house again, once again, with the abuser. So it's very difficult for women to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken with Maison Interlude House. I've spoken with you guys over the last 18 months, once or twice. And one of the great the initiatives you launched was that 24/7 free online sort of like chat. That there was no history recorded of it on your web browser or anything. How has that worked for you guys in the last 18 months? Has it been successful?
Yes, it has been actually. And okay, so imagine the woman who was at home with the abuser who cannot physically call because she can be overheard. She can discreetly either text or you know through emails or whatever, this system, this platform where she can reach out to us and someone is on the other end and we can chat. So it can be done very discreetly. It's confidential. And it has actually gotten us in contact with women to be able to get them out of their home without them being harmed.
And in terms of our situation, our realistic situation here in Prescott Russell, I mean, as we said, I know that the last 18 months have been quite complex because they kind of have to be taken as an aside. But is it something that's is it an issue that's getting better? Are we seeing improvements, or is it getting worse? Is it staying the same? And what needs to be done here locally, Linda, to really help those in need?
The workers are there to provide the counseling and to provide the emotional support. But what we're looking at now is like I said, these women need to be able to get out. But when they do get out, they need a place to go. And with this housing crisis, we need more housing, more availability to housing. And once they do get out, the rent has gone up so much that they can't even afford it. So if there is something available out there, they can't afford it.
Yeah, we look at the housing crisis, as you say there, as one of the big concerns for everyone, but very interesting for you to state it as one of the specific concerns here in this particular issue. I mean, during the recent federal election, a lot was made of the, quote, development and implementation of a national action plan to deal with abuse against women as well. Do you think that the housing crisis and housing and the forms of escape like that should be part of that plan? And how much communication and help have you received in terms of the local MP and local MPPs in the areas you work in?
Yes, we have. We are in communication with him and with others, but yes, the housing has to be addressed, because no matter how much we give them emotional support, and we can give them counseling, and we can give them all those tools to cope with the violence that's going on, where are they going to go physically? And that right now is the biggest problem that our outreach workers are seeing, is that you have a feeling of helplessness. I mean, you feel the worker feels overwhelmed because she feels like she's not doing enough, but physically we do not have enough housing. And like I said, when we do have these apartments or whatever that are available, they can't even afford them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Available housing is one thing, but affordable housing is definitely a big issue, something that the federal election, it was sort of pushed back onto the provincial elections, and I'm sure will be a big topic when we come into 2022 with the election just around the corner as well. You mentioned housing there, Linda. What are some of your other bigger concerns for the future?
Well, like I say, right now it is housing. It's getting them out of that situation, because there's a 6-year wait for this housing, for affordable housing, first of all. So it's the effect, the damage that's happening right now with these women not being able to leave these abusive relationships, and the long-term effects that that's going to have psychologically, emotionally, physically, and on the children, our next generation. Like, they're being raised in violent homes and they can't get out. So what's our future look like with these kids? What's going to happen?
That's very interesting. So this sort of reactive element of being able to help those who are in this issue right now, as you say, right now getting them out of that situation, is also essentially a preventative measure by aiding the next generation who are stuck in this habitat as well.
Exactly.
And
so it's a
what do you see?
effect as much.
Pardon me, carry on.
Sorry, it's the long-term effect also we have to look at, right? The long-term effect on these women that are in these situations, but also on their children.
Absolutely. And when we look at some of the prevention methods and programs that could be put in place, where does the onus really come on? Because we hear a lot recently about the fact that you can't just use prevention measures and programs on those that are victims, because essentially that's victim shame. So where do we go here? Where do the prevention programs need to go? Is it within children? Is it families? Is it first responders? Who is it?
Everybody, right? Everybody. Because this is everybody's problem. It's not just, like you say, victims. We have to be preventative. So we have to get into those schools. We have to make children aware, also raise awareness with children. The general public. We do webinars. Maison Interlude does webinars. We organize groups. And like I said, it's especially important to get into the schools. So that's what we're doing right now, that we're trying to reach out to everyone not just the victims, right?
Absolutely. And so you mentioned there about the webinars getting into the schools and a couple of things like that. What else do you think could be done for us to really try and make these societal changes towards this kind of mentality that we have at the moment, and literally, unfortunately, an element of this culture where it seems that violence against women and gender-based violence is so unfortunately prevalent?
Well, everybody needs to speak out. You have to be an ally. You have to believe the person when, first of all, when they tell you. And the judgment that follows being a victim of violence, that's another thing. We have to stop that. We have to stop judging. We have to believe the person when they tell us that they're being victimized, that they're hurting. You believe them, and you have to make sure that that person knows that it's not their fault. So everybody has a role to play. You don't have to be a psychologist to give someone support. And most of the time, a woman who has support, and it's proven, a woman who has support will benefit more than a woman who has no support whatsoever. So it's society's responsibility to make sure that you're an ally in this, to help these women, to believe them, and to make sure that they know that it's not their fault and that they are not alone.
Well, you touched on it there, Linda. My last question would simply be for anyone out there listening, for even just someone like myself, a general passerby on the street in people's lives. We've all got friends, we've all got family. What's something someone can do on a maybe daily basis that could maybe help someone in need?
Well, like I said, just reach out. Just let that person know. If you know that someone is living in a violent situation, just no judgment, but be there. Believe what they're saying, and just let them know that, first of all, it's not their fault and they're not alone in this. That is so important.
Well, Linda, thank you very much for your time. Speaking of reaching out, finally there, I'd just like to give you the platform now. How can people get in touch with yourself and with Maison Interlude House?
So our number is 1-800-461-1842. So that is you dial that number and you'll be able to we have a crisis line, and you'll be able to reach outreach services, the shelter, and administration and whatnot.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Linda Bissonette there from Maison Interlude House, talking to us about November, which is Women Abuse Prevention Month. Linda, thank you once again.
You're very welcome, and thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for watching. And as Linda said, there are many things happening on December the 6th, so make sure if you can get out to one of those 3 towns in Prescott Russell, that just showing face and being there and being supportive, showing that you are someone that is there, you are an ally, it can be very, very important. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.